Hey guys, this is Stephanie. I am here with a kind of a collective haul. This is just a fun haul that I did over the weekend, and I got so many cool things, a lot of vintage things I wanted to show you. Couldn't wait to start putting some stuff away, but I wanted to kind of show some things that I had gotten. I'm very, very excited about. I went out of town this weekend to visit my sister, and she lives in a city that has a lot of flea markets. And we went to town on the flea markets. We also hit up some yard sales, and then my other sister has been doing some collecting and gave me some vintage items. So I wanted to show you all some things that I'd gotten. I was just so super excited about them. I've not put away anything except I did put away some old postcards, vintage postcards that I had bought. They were a little pack. They were really neat, but there was about 10 of them in a little Ziploc bag for $1. Um, I'm not, this is not in any order, but I just wanted to show these things. My sister gave me this. This is a tin that she had collected, or that she had, and I like old vintage stuff, and so she had this tin. I put a plastic bag in here, but because this was an old tin, it was marked up inside. But what I have in here is was the contents of this box that I picked up at the flea market for $1. The flea market were one of the flea markets, and it is this beautiful kind of a sateen finish box. This will be an altered box. I could not, when I saw this, I could not wait to bring this home. I thought this would be lovely to make a vintage altered box. And it was full of all of these sewing goodies, mostly threads, some pins. This was kind of a new, I've actually never seen these. These are upholstery needles. There was those in there, and then there was a little card. Let me show you this card because I actually took the needles off of the card. There was this card, and you opened it up, and it had lots of needles in it. And it's the same image on the other side. So what I did was I took the needles off because I would like to use those. But I wanted to use the card for as some ephemera. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that neat? Vintage card to use in maybe one of my altered books or one of my projects. So I took that out. So I used this little tin that my sister gave me to put the extra little sewing items in, and this box was full of those little sewing items, and it was $1. And it has kind of a, I don't think it's glass, I think it's like plexiglass finish. So I thought that was very neat. And these are in no, like I said, in no particular order, so I'm not quite sure. Okay, so I went to a yard sale, and the lady had a few scrapbook things, and so I saw these two items, and these are just the Hobby Lobby spare parts, the little paper flowers. And then I saw these charms, these little fishy charms. And so these charms were laying inside of this little box. And let me see what else was in there. Oh, let me grab one more thing that was in there. And then this was, I only wanted these two items. And I said, how much is it? And she said, well, I'll tell you what. She said, I'll give you all of this. And she went over and she gathered these two items. She gathered this brand new jar. It was $5.99, it says, of mosaic tiles, all different kind of mosaic tiles. You see those? Lovely. And the little container with the lid. And she also put these ceramic, kind of do-it-yourself ceramic tiles that you can use like a permanent ink or a paint, and kind of do your own thing. And all of that, she gave it to me for $2. So I was really tickled because I would have given her $2 for the flowers and the charms. So I was pretty excited about that. Another flea market I picked up, and this was in the same booth. I picked up this corner punch rounder. Corner rounder punch, I guess it's called, for $1. And then they must have had 30 of these little containers for 80 cents. Michael's carries these, and I think they're like $1.99 at Michael's maybe. But they probably had 30 of them stacked up. I only got a couple of them. I picked this up at Meijer's for 70 cents just because I thought the animals were so cute. I don't know what I'll use it on. In that little sewing kit was this little aspirin container, and I thought, surely, I shook it and I thought, oh, surely to goodness they didn't sell that. So I opened it up, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Inside there's all these pretty buttons, pretty different buttons. So that's what was inside, different shapes, kind of neat. So I will definitely hang on to those. I found this in one of my little containers. Let's see if I can. I don't know why the lighting is just kind of jacked up on this. It's a little wooden coin. I collect Coca-Cola items. So this was just tucked inside one of the bags, and it was inside this bag that I picked up for 10 cents. And it is all different kinds of snowflakes. You see, I don't know if you can see those really well. Those cute, all different kinds of snowflakes. They're like the kind of the sequin kind of. But anyways, this little wooden piece for Coke was tucked inside. Very cool because I collect Coca-Cola stuff. So I thought that was really neat. I was excited to get that. I found this, actually, we also went to Target and I found this at the dollar spot. Nothing to scream about there. We went to a discount store that they had called Ollie's, and there was tons of these frames. If you can see those. And they had oval, circles, heart-shaped, squares, and they were $1.29, and then they were 50% off of that. So I just got one package of those. I also picked up these kind of vintage looking frames. These also for $1.29 at 50% off. And there's 4 of them in the package there. So those are the little items that I got. Now what I cannot wait, and I'm going to switch the camera view and see if I can get a better lighting. Hold on. Okay guys, we're going to see if we can get the lighting better this way. What I really can't wait to show you, what I'm so excited about, in my foray for, I'm really kind of looking into altered books. I have several altered book projects or mini book projects that I'm working on simultaneously. When I get them done, I definitely want to show them. But I got a stack of books. Okay, so my sister she also is really into kind of old books, vintage books. So she had these on hand, and she gave these to me to see if I could do anything with these. This one is, let me see, it is Cumberland, the Old Log House, A History and Defense of the Cumberland Presbytery Church. Let me see if you can see the date. 1880 is the publication date on that. Very neat little book. And I don't have any thoughts in mind yet what I'm going to do with these, but just very cool. This is the Child's Music Course for Public Schools. And this was a first reader. Copyright 1898. And it's kind of neat. It says teachers should insist on an erect position as a child cannot use his lungs freely while leaning against the back of the seat. It is thought by the best teachers that beating time with a hand is indispensable. It tells them to take about 2 minutes of the music period for breathing exercises. Just really interesting stuff. There was, this music book was, I believe, from 1944. old music book. This one was from, what did she tell me? 46. So these are just music books. But, you know, I don't know what, I do play the piano. And it's funny, I actually looked through a lot of these songs I play for my church. And these are songs that either so old or maybe specific to this church or denomination. I actually did not know very many of these songs. I picked up this book. This was $1, American Heritage. And the only reason I picked up, it said $3, but they actually let me have it for $1. The only reason I picked up this book was because it had some interesting images in here that I thought I could incorporate somehow in my book. I thought these images were interesting. There were several pages of images like this. So I thought those were very interesting. I'm going to set these aside as I show them. My sister gifted me this book. This is actually a reproduction. I do collect old catalogs like Sears, Penny's, Montgomery Ward, Alden's. I do collect old vintage catalogs. Now this is a reproduction. This shows the original page, what it would have looked like. This is a 1902 edition of Sears and Roebuck. Very, very neat stuff. And then in the beginning, I thought what was really interesting in the front of this book was there was a copy of an original order with the handwriting as you know, as it looked. Here it is. They actually copied this order, and it was from 1902. This was an actual order form. So I thought this was very interesting. She gifted me that. I had another sister. I have several sisters in the same town, and two of them do a lot with vintage antiques, old books, genealogy. And so she actually, the one that actually does the vintage antiques, she just gave me this because she thought some of the images in the book perhaps I could use with some of my projects. So this is not really an older book. It just had some neat images in it. And then she also gave me this jewelry, how to make some crafty jewelry, and she thought maybe I could get some ideas for my crafting from that. Those two were not old. I picked up this for $1 at one of the flea markets. I loved the vivid colors on this book. And I love that there is a library, space for a library card inside. And this will become an altered book. And I don't know, there are some interesting images in here. I don't know if I will incorporate some of those images into the book. I have yet to do the altered book where I make my own signatures. And I thought this book would be perfect for that. So I just loved the imaging. So I will not distort this cover. I love that cover. This I picked up at a yard sale. This is all this weekend, guys, while we went, as we call it, progging. I picked up this book for $1, and it is, they told me when I bought it that it was an antique book. It's from 1946, and it's Sing and Praise, and actually the reason I got it is, again, for the images, and then also I thought I could use the pages, you know. But there were some interesting images in here. Look at that. I love that. Really cute, really neat images. So, you know, when I see these kind of things, I have 1,000 projects in my head that go through my head. Not 1,000 literally, but, you know, I think, oh, I could use it for this and I could use it for that. So, I paid just like a few dollars for this whole entire stack other than what was given to me. So I should surely get use out of these. Another flea market find, $1. And this, again, has a lot of black and white, but it also has a lot of color images. And again, I thought surely I could find some art images in here that I would like to use for some of my projects. So that is the purpose for this book again. But the book is just art. It's about art. That was $1. I really did get some really good deals. This whole stack of books, let me grab these. I actually bought this whole stack of books with this little post-it note that on top of it that said $1. So I started looking through this, and this is 1976. It's an almanac from 1976, but I love how the pages are aged, very aged. This is an illustrated world from, and let me see if I saw, oh, here it is. Look at the date on this, guys. 1916. Is this not too neat? 1916. Knives of Mercy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. Here is an almanac from 1921. This was all in the stack of books that were for $1. This is, of course, falling apart. But won't this be neat to incorporate into some of my vintage altered projects? And I know I haven't shown any of them. That's because I literally have 4 projects going on in the works, and I have little bits and pieces of all of them done. So here is another almanac from 1930. Same thing, very vintage. I look forward to just reading this, not just to use it for ephemera, but I'm looking very much forward to reading it, and I don't know, I don't know how I'm going to use it yet, but love it, love it. Also picked up some old patterns. This I picked up for the images. This was $0.10. And I don't know what the copyright date on this was. It's not too old. I'm going to guess maybe the 70s or late 60s. This one is older, quite a bit older. If you look at the price on it, 15 cents. I got this one for $1. Again, love the images. Picked up both of those. In keeping with me collecting old catalogs, vintage catalogs. This one actually is not as old as some of the ones I have. This is from 1976. And this is an Alden's catalog. I really just enjoy looking through these old catalogs more than anything. I don't know that there's anything I will cut apart other than maybe take some papers out like this to put in something, but really I just really enjoy looking at the old vintage. And it doesn't seem vintage because I grew up in the 70s, so it's very strange to me to think that this would be considered vintage, but I think, what is it, 25 years maybe, or 20 years, I can't remember what when it's actually, or is it 40 years when it's considered vintage. This book, Norman Rockwell, picked up for $3. And again, picked it up for the images. It's just full of Norman Rockwell images. There a lot of them are larger, so the larger ones I'm not sure how I would use, but some of them are smaller, and so I'm not sure what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, and I may not do anything. I may just keep the book for what it is. And may not tear into it at all. I love to read, and sometimes it's a struggle for me to get into those kind of books because I do love to read. Last 2 things, I picked up both of these magazines at a flea market. The man asked me for $10 for both of them. I offered him $7 and he took it. This is a Saturday Evening Post from 1952. Got a picture of Norman Rockwell on it. I love these old magazines. Just love to look at them. And I'm sure that there will be some images in there I will want. I don't know that I would cut these up. I have several of these. I have them tucked away. I have some very old ones from the 30s, from the 40s, from the 50s, from the 60s. And the ones that I really enjoy, I don't cut up. In fact, my sister has a booth at this flea market that I bought these from. And she knows that I do a lot of altered projects, or that I'm working on some altered projects, I will say. And she said, you know, well, I'm not giving you any of mine because you're just going to cut them up. I'm not going to, you know, let you have any of my magazines. And, you know, and I said to my sister, I don't cut up the ones that I really enjoy. I am a vintage girl. I am a retro gal. That's my cup of tea. So when I really like something like this, I don't cut them up. So I'm not sure about this one. The next one, I am almost positive I will not cut up at all. Because, guys, look at the date on this. Ladies' Home Journal, May 1903. Look at that image. Is that not something? Look at that. It says the Paul Hello Girl, and I don't know if she was a model. 1903. I have to say, this is not the oldest newspaper I have, but this is definitely, because I do collect old newspapers too, by the way, guys. I have a storage room. I don't keep all this at my house. I actually have an off-site storage room that I keep a lot of this stuff in, and it's just stuff that I treasure. I don't have it out in my home because I don't have room, but I don't want to get rid of it. But that being said, this is the oldest magazine that I have. I do not have any older than 1903. I do have, I think I have one newspaper from the late 1800s that I have tucked away in storage. So look at that. Look at the corsets. Is that not something? Look at the dresses. The advertisements or advertisements. The shoes. This was my greatest find, I have to say, yesterday. And the funny thing is, the gentleman that was running the flea market, I saw these magazines just kind of laying on the floor, leaned up against something, and I saw the date of the Ladies' Home Journal, and my breath kind of caught, and I said, how much for these? Because there was no, prices on them. And he said, what are they? And I wasn't about to tell him, well, it's a 1903 edition of Ladies' Home Journal. I said, oh, Saturday Evening Post and Ladies' Home Journal. And he said, I'll take $10 for both of them. So when I offered him $7, he said, sure. And I surmised later, I said something to my sister. I said, I'm betting he didn't know what, that this was a 1903 version, and the actually very good shape it's in for being from 1903. Look at the Purina Ralston. And she said, oh, I think he probably did. She said, I think he did know what he had, and he just let you have it. So anyways, this was my greatest find from yesterday, but I couldn't wait to show these very wonderful vintage finds and some just neat books. I really can't wait to start digging into my projects more. Hopefully we've moved and now I'm settled and I have my craft area set up, and hopefully I can get into some more projects. But I'm actually, before I do any projects, I am going to sit down and look through each one of these books page by page, because I'll be honest, I flipped through them, picked them up, and we kept going. So I have not got a chance, even with this one, I have not gotten a chance to sit down and look. I haven't got a chance to look and see, well, what do I actually have? I know this is wonderful. I know this book is absolutely wonderful. So, anyways, was very excited to show this. You guys have a great week coming up, and most of you ladies that do altered books and these altered projects, you all know about flea markets and yard sales and junk stores. You all know about that. But for any of you who maybe are just getting started, those are excellent places to find wonderful vintage ephemera and wonderful images. And so this is a happy girl that went shopping this weekend. You guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk with you the next time, the next project, the next haul. Bye. God bless.